And just like that, we're right back. Over in Brazil now, though, it's Dulcin and Gormizer to talk Parallax up against Fatal Ambition. And Gore, this is a matchup I think previous weeks we would say Parallax wins it every single time, but remember the last time we saw Parallax, it was 0-3, and they lost to Team Clarity. So I think things become a little bit more interesting now watching this game in Brazil. Of course, Team Clarity will have a chance to follow up with another win over In Control Nation. But Parallax, Fatal Ambition, that's the one we've got for you on broadcast here today.
Yeah, this is definitely one that's been eye-opening here in Brazil. Again, I think the conversation is kind of adverse to, well, realistically, Europe, and I guess maybe a little bit of North America, where we've had one team that has kind of escalated and climbed their way to the top. In Brazil, no one's done that just yet. Like, it looked like Parallax Gaming were going to be that team. The first, 2 weeks of play, they just kind of swatted anybody that decided to step up to them, and then they took that loss, and now it's kind of been like, well, if you can lose to A, you could lose to B, theoretically, and trying to figure out where they're going to go. So it's very easy to try and count Fatal Ambition out, but at the same time, is it? It's not. It's not as cut and dry, I think, as it could have been.
Well, Stone Keep will be map number 1. I don't know, man. I mean, you look at Fatal Ambition's roster, Barinoo, headëd, SUKRAN, not PS1, and Vindo there. I mean, that's a solid roster from what we've seen in these first few weeks. And just a moment ago, you saw those standings, Gore. The top 4 out of the 6 teams all neck and neck in that 2-1 slot. I still think you have to look at Parallax, though. I mean, between Mittow and frzgod, obviously SPL talent from last year, now moving in to the PPC here. I think you still have to give them an edge in a matchup like this. And, maybe you're scratching your head at them losing 3-0, a week ago. But I still think that this is the team to beat here in this region.
Yeah, and this is going to be very difficult. And I know mainly because I'm going to reiterate this one, I think, just because so many teams in that bye week went and got slapped with a team sponsor that came through, and I'm happy for them. But for those who might not know, Fatal Ambition was Raum Esports, so if you were looking at them in the past, that is going to be who they are now, Fatal Ambition, as they're going to be coming through. And this is not, well, first off, it's not an org that's foreign to Paladins, but also, it's not a team to glance over in my mind. I think, even when we're talking about it, like Parallax versus Raum, Parallax versus Fatal, whatever you want to say, a lot of people, and on paper, it seems like it should be very heavily in favor of Parallax Gaming, but almost all of that depends on one guy, and that's frzgod, right? And it's just like, is he going to hard carry? Has the rest of the team escalated to kind of match him? And I'm going to throw it out there, Dave. It is very difficult to find 4 other people in the world that are at the same level as frzgod, let alone put them all on a team that is safe and balanced together as well. So it'll be interesting to see how exactly Parallax has kind of evolved, what they use their bye week working on and getting things together.
Gore, I think you'd struggle to find one I mean, frzgod is in the conversation for best in the world at his position.
It's him and Tenor.
Right. I know. They're both just such a treat to watch. And Fatal Ambition, I think realizing the power that frzgod brings, especially on those high mobility flanking champions, take away the Eevee, take away the Maeve. I can't blame Fatal Ambition for that.
Yeah, that's, again, like number 1 spot to go. What's going to be very potent. frzgod and his flanks. That being said, we have seen him shy away from some of those lately. Specifically looking at things, well, if you want to go back into the past, Drogo's, but his Leon has been showing up a ton lately, and I will tell you, I am thoroughly impressed with all of the champions that Freeze has in his pool. The same thing I think goes for a lot of members of Parallax, and for realistically a lot of the pros, like, they seem to have spent their off-season working on just a little bit extra, and so while I think Bomb King, like, as potent as he is, we've still seen, like, Viktor's being very, very potent. Vivian's, like, she's banned out. Like, things like that are still maybe high up on the tier list and definitely something to worry about.
We've seen a little bit of everything up to this point, haven't we? A lot of teams starting to get creative. Of course, in North America, some teams just only play triple DPS. I don't know, though, Gore. I mean, I think Brazil has been... You're talking about meta and trying new things. I think Brazil kind of leaned in to that ruckus off-tank earlier than EU or NA did, whereas some of the other regions may be really liking that double kind of off-healer composition. So I am curious. I'm wondering if Ruckus maybe is going to play a big role here today in this matchup in Picks and Bans.
Well, so far he's been kind of cast to the wayside, but it's that
Right.
weird thing. That the thing I love about Ruckus is that he's so potent and he's been so powerful, especially in a lot of the hands of players, one in this match, but also that we've seen across North America and in Europe. But he's never like a top 5. Like he's always in your like bottom 10 or bottom like 4 that come through. Sometimes the last pick, and it is that small area of counter pick, right? Cassie's not huge in the meta right now, so Ruckus can kind of rise up since she's gone. But she still exists, so you don't want to pick him too early, or you just open yourself up. And I think things like that will play a big role. Of course, if you're Europe right now, you don't care about tanks or anything, so you maybe don't even care about Ruckus existing. But you do open the door for some interesting play. And then, it's been different like here in Brazil. A lot of focus on like the Inaras and your Bariks, your point tanks.
And I love the way that that Fatal Ambition have started off this draft. I mean, you look at Bomb King and Viktor, and you mentioned Viktor Gore is how, it's a simplistic kit, but at its core, it does so much damage if you're just able to play properly, play safe enough, and that's on you and then the rest of your team to buy you space. So I love Fatal Ambition going for him. PS1 has become, one of the premier DPSs here in Brazil up to this point, so I love them going towards that Viktor. Inara to round out, grab that massive health pool. Androxus, though, Gore, I think he's the epitome of hit your shots and you'll do some good damage.
Yeah, that's one of the things we were actually talking about earlier, because we were watching that last set, and I just sat back on Ascension Peak. Man, it feels like ages ago because of how long it took him to get to the end there. But I just sat back and I was like, if I could just aim with Andro the way that some of these guys in the PPC do, my Andro play would just jump on the tier list, at least in my eyes. And he very much is in that bracket. He can solo carry a game in the right hands. I'm looking at this for Parallax. I'm going to go ahead and assume it's Freeze. If not, Freeze is getting Strix. Either one of those are going to be very deadly over there. But, I mean, Io on the other side, surprised it took her so long with a Furia, a Viktor, a Bomb King. Like, Fatal Ambition have the tier list in my mind. They have the top of the top right now.
I agree, and they're moving themselves, and Parallax are as well, to be fair, towards that kind of double healer, one more damagey, one more supporty. It is Stone Keep, though. A battle between two 2-1 teams here in Brazil. Fatal Ambition looking to unseat Parallax and vice versa. But I think Gore and I have talked about how it's certainly not said and done, not for either side here. But looking at drafts, Gore, maybe you're feeling Fatal Ambition a little bit more here towards Stone Keep. I am curious. The IO has been such an interesting kind of support healer pick here in this meta. Some teams have really got her figured out. And you can tell because those games tend to go very, very lopsided almost towards the team with the IO.
Yeah, this is the hardest thing to deal with just in general. It forces you into Bulldozer. You can already see 2 of them picked up there by Parallax. Dave, I can't believe this. Hold on. I got to cut myself off. frzgod's on Ying. Of all the things I looked at on that team to say, yep, that's going to be Freeze, it was literally the least likely in my eyes. I would have put him on Ashe and Jenos before I put him on Ying. And my brain is trying to play catch-up right now because that caught me off guard so hard.
Yeah, I agree. It's a foregone conclusion in my mind that, he's on the Androxus. Maybe in a weird world you stick him on the Strix, but that's not to be. So frzgod likely playing some of that extra damage Ying. I mean, maybe you could make the argument that it's a bit more of a flexy kind of weird pick, the kind of damage Ying, and maybe that's where frzgod kind of slots into this roster. And seems to be working out so far. Mittow playing the Strix instead of frzgod drops PS1 for the first blood in this game and rattling off a few more shots as well. 57% for Parallax and Fatal Ambition Gore. They're all grouped up in the back of Keep.
And there's not much they can do here either. You poke your head, you're going to get sniped out. And again, what I was going to say, and that's exactly what it is, you buy Bulldozer, you deal with Luna on the point, and then even though they were able to stop you from capturing or even get their own little bit of percentage, 30% here for Fatal Ambition, it doesn't open them up to as much. So I like that Parallax Gaming are already on the ball, willing to pay that, well, very cheap 150 credits at the beginning just to get that Bulldozer online to start things off to it with a bang.
We do have to be mindful of not PS1, but Dinttick is more than that as he drops the Viktor for the second time already in this game, 2 minutes in. Parallax stall out at 72%. frzgod finds the shot onto headëd. Fatal Ambition up against the wall here in the backline. Dinttick has found the opening, and he's found himself a couple of kills. Parallax Gaming, they choose the proper moment to strike, and they strike swiftly.
Just a knock to the back of the head. Once you get Andro into the backline there, the minute he gets rid of that Viktor, which admittedly is not a trade Andro wins 100% of the time, and not easily when he does win it. But once he gets back there, it's so much easier to flank because it's the two supports plus, yeah, Bomb King, but admittedly, as long as he has Reversal up, he's going to be feeling safe there and can kind of keep that at just range enough for this Androxus to take advantage of it. So Dinttick playing that one incredibly well. And now they're forcing out ultimates from Fatal Ambition just to try and get the defense on the roll.
Yeah, it seems like Parallax Gaming have just been one step ahead, but Fatal Ambition, as you point out, use some of those ultimates, and they're successful this time around. All said and done, Seismic Crash, Barrage, and also an Inflame used by Fatal Ambition, a Flashbang traded out, and a through time and space for Parallax Gaming. So you look at kind of that swing and counter swing. Fatal Ambition, they took the first strike here on the defensive side, and were actually able to buy themselves some good space.
And being able to get a zone like this, start things off, especially with a kill immediately as you get aggressive, is going to be big. They're forcing some ults. There's the up-down.
Oh.
Jeezy Pete's does this Androxus just do too much damage. Between that, a Strix, and as weird as it feels to say it, the Ying as well, hitting as hard as they are right now. It's just very difficult to find a spot that feels safe away from this damage. I think it's also worth pointing out, like, King Bomb's still going to be very potent, but Io, the Be Gone, much like an Overpower from a Khan on this map, there's very few areas where it feels lethal. Khan has that even on the defense because he has access to the edge of the map. But Be Gone, you have to be in such a specific area to aim it to get a kill with it that you're looking at that maybe as just an overtime saver more than anything here for Fatal Ambition.
Absolutely, and this is kind of that rank, or the route maybe, where Fatal Ambition may elect to toss out that Be Gone just to buy themselves some time. Things getting dire here with 35 seconds left. 3 members down for Fatal Ambition. Suddenly it's just Barinoo down by the payload, but he's going to fall as well. headëd, the last man alive, back in base. There are a few respawns for Fatal Ambition. But when it's all said and done, Parallax Gaming roll it through. A big second wind there on that push. Gourmizer grabs Parallax their second point.
It's smooth. And the smoothest part of it, I should say, is Dinttick. Much smoother than the way I said that. 5-0-10. He's been getting into the back line perfectly every single time. And the thing is he's always isolating the ones he needs to. It's either Bomb King or this Viktor, not PS1. And without not PS1, the range damage from Fatal Ambition drops almost instantly to nothing. Yes, you can still have 400 maybe getting shot out by this Io, but it's not consistent enough and high enough to make the big difference. And then suddenly headëd's under pressure. Suddenly you have this Bomb King getting put under pressure. And that just, it's a domino effect into the back line. So Dinttick, it has been the one opening the door for everyone else.
And there are, and we sort of mentioned that big swing of ultimates Fatal Ambition used to try to buy themselves time on that defense. Those are now coming back online here for the first round of mid-fight ultimates. Be Gone, Barrage, both used, but no kills just yet. King Bomb will roll out as well from Fatal Ambition, but not PS1, falls in the backline. Dinttick has already found a couple of kills here, and suddenly 3-member Fatal Ambition staggering themselves away from this fight. Dinttick is on an absolute tear here. Finally, somebody else getting a kill. As Kronsz and Mittow, they complete the sweep. Fatal Ambition blown off the map.
And I'm so happy we got to watch Mittow there for a little bit because the 18 streak burning for the Andro is well deserved by Dinttick, but you do get to see the role this Strix is playing. Dinks him for 1,200 if it's a body shot, but 1,800, so many of those shots we saw him throw out were headshots, and that's just getting him into the 1 to 2 shot territory for this Andro, making it so easy to just slide in, get those kills, and keep moving.
That's a nice shot there from Owtlander as well with the through time and space. Barinoo with Inflames at his back tried to get a touch on the point. But now that Inara is gone, it will be one more mid-fight one for Parallax Gaming. Oof. And Gora, at some point, this just looks like they'll be unstoppable, at least on this map. I mean, a 19 streak for Dinttick. You look one way, this Androxus is tearing you apart. You look the other, and it's Mittow on a Strix tearing you apart. Parallax look a bit unstoppable here on Stone Keep.
And it's definitely the Paladins equivalent of a rock in a hard place, except there's three things, and it's all DPS, and it's all hit scan specifically. Even Jenos is causing pressure from far away here. And it's just so difficult to retaliate. Again, Viktor is the one who can fight back the best for it, but he's only alive for so long because the sniper's keeping eyes on him. Same thing for Dinttick, who's just floating in the backline right now.
Gore, I think Kronsz has also had a massive game so far. Double kills left and right. The assert dominances have been kind of inch perfect so far. Everyone from Parallax Gaming on a streak here. 1 minute and 30 seconds left for Fatal Ambition to try and defend here. Parallax Gaming knocking on the doors of a 7-minute, 8-minute maybe 4-0. Barrage will soften up some of that front line and the back line. Here for Fatal Ambition up on the high ground. Dinttick has found himself a nice little flank, misses a few of those maybe essential shots to turn things around. Mittow tosses out the flashbang, does connect on a few members. Stunned down though. Onto one, but low health bar on SUKRAN. He does end up getting cleaned up here. And look at this sightline Mittow is playing, and he hasn't missed many shots. I think luckily though, Gore, Fatal Ambition, they have the important trades.
Yeah, they finally get the pressure they needed, the kills they needed. I was wondering, about, well, I want to say 30 seconds there, the Parallax Gaming are almost all under 50% health bars, every single member, but they're still getting kills, still getting pressure up against Fatal Ambition. And it's moments like that you need someone to go big, but like you said, it was the angle that Mittow was holding that was making it so difficult. Now he's still back to the same spot, but Barinoo recognizes it. They at least pressure out the Strix. That's a beautiful wall, by the way, to be able to stop him. And that's going to be an opener. Get rid of Mittow's pressure, get rid of Dinttick, and all of a sudden you might find yourself a defense and at least stay alive in the game.
It's tough though. Mittow is just able to slide out off to the side, immediately returns to the fight and plugs a shot on the not PS1 to clean up the kill. Kronsz has to shoulder bash out of duress here as Fatal Ambition have that free high ground, and they're going to have 5 ultimates here soon. Getting into that scary point, you might have to use them just to prevent this one from going in through time and space. Does not connect for a kill, but sets up maybe one onto Barinoo. Dinttick, Kronsz, both adding one. Suddenly 3 squishy members of Fatal Ambition might have to jump down to contest. Dinttick saves the life of Mittow and Parallax Gaming. They roll it in easy 4-0. Dust off your hands.
Mittow definitely seemed to have some flashbacks. It felt like old Xbox 360 days. He's out there quick scoping people like it's nothing, having a lot of fun on that sniper at the very end there. And it just, that tandem damage duo worked so well together. Dinttick 13-1 and 11, Mittow 13-2 and 12. I think the damage number is probably going to be Mittow just slightly ahead, but the fact that it was constantly him hitting someone from the side, Dinttick going in and cleaning it up, right? And just working together like that, as long as you're both okay, cool, let's get Bomb King, Bomb King's dead. Now Victor's dead. Now Io's dead. You just go down the checklist at that point. And it makes it so clean for the team that there was never any pressure on the point. The best they had for Fatal Ambition was a defense.
It's so weird, though, watching these highlights, and it's a Mittow on the Strix. And he topped damage in this game, Gore. That goes about 8 minutes long. He had 80,000 damage, right around that 10,000 damage a minute mark that you kind of look for is a very good game, and Mittow certainly did it. I think Dinttick as well on a 22 streak up until the second to last push that Parallax were able to find. But I think it's a good way to kind of piggyback off the conversation we were having in Picks and Bans where, obviously Parallax, but really everyone in this region, they've kind of expanded maybe the mindset, the champion pools, what they're willing to play, and whether this is more let's have some fun or a legitimate strategy from Parallax. It looks good. I mean, you have frzgod on a Ying, Mittow on a Strix, and you get yourself the 4-0.
And even though, again, it literally melted my brain for the first, 30 seconds of the game, seeing frzgod on Ying, it didn't do anything great, but it didn't do anything not great either, if that makes sense. It did exactly what you want out of your Ying, which is more than you can ask for at any point in time, although maybe even more damage than you would expect out of your Ying, considering how well he was tracing it. So something that I don't expect to see often, but they've proven that it can work, so I guess I won't argue with putting frzgod on a Ying. I just wonder, if you're looking at it, maybe you start looking into triple DPS, flexing him around, but hey, the meta has dictated that these supports can be and are bonkers in some of these scenarios, so I'll just let it roll.
Yeah, and I think the meta has also kind of dictated that double support, one more off damagey. Frog Isle, though, I think is an interesting map to look at. And, of course, around the snipers is always the conversation we have to have, and whether or not you're a team that's willing to, A, take one, ban the other, leave both of them open, you take one, sometimes take both. There's a lot of ways you can kind of play around that sniper conversation just because of how prominent high ground is on this map.
Yeah, it's such an interesting dynamic to try and tackle, specifically because, like you said, depending on snipers, whether or not they make it through, or if they get banned away, it starts to maybe open up an avenue for different conversation, because now there's, 2 more champions open than there normally would have been. You look at last game to this game, Eevee and Maeve both still very potent on this map, mainly because they can get to the backline and deal with snipers. Strix did numbers last map for Mittow, so both relatively, I would actually argue all 3, adding Kinessa into that mix, very high priority, just depends on which way the teams want to go to get them.
And I love Parallax, actually, with so many prominent damage dealers still on the table, and maybe that's why there are so many still on the table. Parallax, go back towards that Ashe. I think Kronsz had a massive game on Ashe in game number 1. The assert dominance constantly connecting with 2 or more people, double kills, mid-fights, double kills on the push. I think Kronsz feeling very comfortable early on in the split on this Ashe. So I like Parallax moving towards that. I'm actually going to grab that Maeve as well. So Fatal Ambition moving back to the Bomb King. But you're playing with fire if you let frzgod play this Maeve.
I mean, you get the Bomb King Inara, which together, again, does a lot of work. It's been solid in the past, works well on this map. But I don't know. I mean, Ashe, Maeve, Furia, it's hard to realistically argue against it. Add a little bit of knockback in that Ashe's loadout, and all of a sudden you're nowhere near safe. Anywhere on the edge of this map. You want to go fight ramp, all of a sudden, well, hey, guess what? Ashe is going to be able to knock you away. Depends on how they want to kind of orient themselves. IO has been very big to make some of these non-tank compositions or just off-tank compositions work, because you just pop Luna down on the point and push up where you want to. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if, you want a second support. She's one of the easiest ones to shoe in.
I was wondering if Parallax was going to go for double sniper here, triple DPS, and it works. I mean, talk about all-out aggression that Parallax have here. It worked out for them in game 1. They're going to try to swing on you first, and they're going to look to do the same here in game 2, and then flame Ashe, Maeve, Kinessa, Strix, maybe not running at you in the latter 2, but the rest of those 3 are going to open up a lot of space, and I think Fatal Ambition have a decent composition to maybe counter some of that out. We get to see Maldamba here, but another triple DPS composition for Fatal Ambition to try to answer back, Gore Miser. You look at the 2 teams, whose triple DPS do you maybe like a little bit more for game 2?
Man, I have to give this one over to Parallax Gaming, only because in my eyes are Strix or Kinessa, whichever one, is in window, looking at the point and beyond. And the other one goes and holds that angle at stage, which gives them access to see a little bit of window, but also to ramp, so they can just kind of have a cross-section over the point, but then it covers 90, 180 degrees of the map that you're going to in order to tackle anyone that might come around the side. You'll have one of them able to watch and catch Talus, one of them able to watch and catch Bomb King and Viktor, and then poor Inara is going to be right in the middle of both, and that is going to be very difficult with just 2 snipers. Then you add in freeze on this Maeve, and I don't know if anybody on the side of Fatal Ambition is going to feel safe.
Look at that shot, though. Bomb King, maybe 100 health left, 200 health maybe, after just 1 plug shot, and Mittow cleans it up. The 1-2 punch, Gore, we talk about a 1-2 punch being prominent with like a Strix and a flank, but talk about 2 snipers. If everyone's hitting their shots, none of these triple DPSs, or even the Maldamba for that matter, they're not going to live at all.
Yeah, and I'd actually love, this is a very rare instance where I want to bring this card up, but if I could look at Bomb King's loadout just to see if he is holding the one card, because the card that comes to my mind is King's New Cloak, which when you run it at level 5, which he has it there, it's 250 L, and you'll notice 2450. Normally, this is where I go into a thing about Jenos and how his ult does 2400 damage and that 50 health keeps you alive. Now, it's 2 body shots from a sniper that happen to happen at the same time, is also 2400 damage. He will have 50 health at the end of that. So as long as frzgod and your Ashe and your Furia don't happen to be looking at you, then you're safe as long as you can get into cover. But he's going to have 50 health as long as one of them's not a headshot. Otherwise, one headshot, one body shot, that's 3,000 damage. Everyone except for that Inara is going to be feeling it. And honestly, even Inara is going to be feeling it. She's just going to feel it slightly less than everybody.
She has more time to feel it before she gets evaporated from the map than a slightly less squishy Bomb King does. Mittow drops Vindo one more time. Gore, we've had the time to maybe make 2 points so far in this game, and the payload is already almost on its way in for point number 2. Finally a defense here from Fatal Ambition as the hit scan backliners find some kills, but now you're sending your Damba and your Talus down to contest. Kronsz was still alive, and he's just tanky and just healthy enough to grab Parallax a 2-0 lead about 2 minutes into this game.
Yeah, there's not a lot to break into that. Again, 50 health here, that is maybe going to help save you. These health cards are important in moments like this because they can keep you alive there. But Dave, 2,400 damage is the bare minimum 2 sniper damage that you're going to be taking if they're bottom shot. Otherwise, it's up to 3,600 if they can both hit their headshots. And like that amount of damage, we've seen this game, or at least I've seen this game, you trace it back 2 years ago, go from like the triple tank, double support kind of composition where the idea is we're just going to live longer than you and that's going to win us the game. You get a bunch of 4-3s to now what is, we're just going to kill you so fast you can't do anything about it. And it's making the games a lot faster paced, and it's putting a lot of precedence on these damage champions.
Fatal Ambition want to change their strategy a little bit and just all-out assault on this right-hand side, but the moment they step out from back behind that fountain, there's return damage waiting for them. Parallax Gaming lose one member in the meantime. PS1, the last one to fall. Mittow has a couple of kills. He's feeling the snipers here today. Parallax Gaming, they withstand that pressure. They push it right on back. Fatal Ambition, all 5 members back and respawn here, but with 81% Gore, you're fighting back into 2 snipers. This is looking like a 3-0 right off the bat.
And you know, I didn't even factor in the steady aim damage that Kinessa is going to be bringing to the table. Like, guys, this is over 4,000 as a max that can come through. This is a very deadly, like, double-edged, like, sword, right, that they're playing with. It is slicing very easily through Fatal Ambition right now, but man, if you slip up on the grip, that thing falls back and it decapitates you, right? Like, this is something that does not defend very well. You could probably get away with it on Frog Isle just because there's a lot more long lines of sight so you can play the angles a little better, but this is not a composition that you're going to see hold up to a 4-3, right? It either rolls over you or it just loses its grip.
Well, Parallax Gaming are doing the rolling right now. Dread Serpent was used, True Power a moment ago, and a couple final daggers. frzgod does not miss those, as SUKRAN catches a couple to the dome and is now back and respawning for the next 5 or so seconds. Full court press is on from Parallax, and talk about fighting back into this. One charged shot and then an immediate follow-up from Dinttick, and nearly Vindo found out the hard way there. There's going to be a King Bomb, Poppy Bomb through, but takes a little bit too much damage on his way over. Is going to have to keep the King Bomb back around the corner. Kronsz right in range to find that final kill. A double kill now for the Ash. And frzgod drops the mid. That's a slither away from Damba. A 3-kill swing from Kronsz. Fatal Ambition all back in base. Parallax Gaming, they're going to roll this one through in less than 6 minutes. Frog Isle is done.
I'll be honest, there's normally times where, especially because it's literally my job, where I'm supposed to talk about how is the other team going to fight back into that. You don't. I don't mean, if it's a less coordinated Parallax Gaming, you have a really solid Talus ult that's like linked up with the goggles from a Viktor that can set the damage up and get you some kills, but I just think they were too on point. Parallax were ready for it. If Talus ults in, which he was able to get one off, then it's not going to work out well for him when he ends up on the other side. We saw what happens to Bomb King as he tries to roll through. Headed, as much as he's going to have range damage, it's just not going to work out that way. That is a composition that is incredibly deadly in the right hands, but I would also argue will only work on Frog Isle. Maybe you could flex it on a couple other maps, but this is playing Frog Isle to a T. And almost just abusing the map is the best way to word it. I mean, they made Frog Isle work for them here on Parallax.
And Gore, I can't help but wondering, I mean, you look back at picks and bans, and the first thing I brought up, and tend to usually bring up about Frog Isle, is where these snipers are prioritized. I, on one hand, maybe not surprised that both snipers made it through, but that Fatal Ambition didn't reach for one or the other throughout the first few picks of the draft. The moment it was Parallax Gaming's final 2 picks, both snipers were ready. I was ready for them both to be locked in. You know, it's a crazy idea, but into a triple DPS, it just works. So I'm wondering maybe sniper priority mismanagement led Fatal Ambition down a 6-minute Frog Isle loss.
Yeah, something that we typically see first banned and first picked even on Frog Isle going down to, what, your 8th and 9th picks in the game, and then both being picked up by the same squad typically means either you messed up or you weren't thinking too much into the snipers. Maybe they've been falling to the wayside in Brazil for some of the other teams. But Parallax Gaming just kind of gave Fatal Ambition a brutal reminder of how important they are on Frog Isle.
Well, Gore, we've been in Brazil for all of 12 minutes, and it's already time for a break. We got Game 3. See if Fatal Ambition can maybe start to get themselves back into the set. They need to start with just at least a point in Game 3. Stick around and see if they can do it. And we are back for game number 3 of Parallax Gaming up against Fatal Ambition in a mood shift, a momentum shift of serious proportions is necessary here, Gore, if Fatal Ambition are going to find their way back into this set. A Stone Keep game that went about 8 minutes, a Frog Isle game that went about 6 minutes. This is the Parallax Gaming that we're used to seeing, and teams I think are scared of seeing, which again makes me wonder what happened in that 3-0 they suffered last time we saw them. But Bright Marsh is where Fatal Ambition will try to make that turn. It's going to be tough, though, with the team members that Parallax Gaming have. I mean, you talk about guys that thrive on Bright Marsh between frzgod and now what we're seeing out of Dinttick. This is a map where they tend to do very well.
Yeah, honestly, and if you want to put Dinttick back on something that he's already shown prowess on this set, I'm calling it go back to Androxus. It works so well on Bright Marsh. Being said, and this is something that personally I've just been missing, and there's literally no rhyme or reason or numbers behind this. I just miss seeing Pip, and I feel like Bright Marsh is a map where he always did well, so I think it could be one of those maps he could come play around for a little bit in if people wanted to. But, I mean, realistically, you're still looking...
Though? Like, are you talking like op healer, like the
no,
damage
definitely.
People used to see?
Well,
I mean, because they changed Catalyst, right? I mean, it's got to be. And maybe in one of those like double healer competitions, he can make it work. I agree, though. I miss Pip. I mean, he's so fun to watch, but I don't know, man. I don't know.
Where we're seeing damage Ying, we could just as easily be seeing damage Pip, potentially. But realistically, Ying's ult is just really good. Pip's ult is great, but you're not guaranteed those kills, and teams learn how to play around it. Leave them by the wayside for a little bit. They forget, and then you scoop them right back in and just sweep through everybody. That's going to be the world's run this year. I can see it in my mind's eye. That it will get there. Right. They'll be up wherever they happen to be playing, and someone's going to lock in Pip in like the semifinals, and it's going to change the rest of the LAN.
Yeah, it was what, Bomb King and World's #1, and it's going to be Pip here in the World Championship this year that makes the miracle run. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I think a big thing last year as well was like having too many resilience-based ultimates or kits on your team because it's such a cheap item to buy. And once you get a couple online, you can just kind of shrug off the evil mojo. So I certainly think there's an opening for him, and I do miss seeing Pip. But I'm not sure this is the game where we're going to see him. We are going to see Raum, though, for the first time in this set for Parallax. They're going to pair it with the Androxus. Talk about a couple power picks to start off your draft here, Cora. I think that's right where Parallax want to be.
And, you know, when we first started talking about Raum, we were talking about him in the sense of, okay, well, Jenos technically is a counter. You Vortex grip him, it cancels out that dash, right? You can cripple him down and hold him in place, at least for a little bit to stop him. But when you think about it, and this is just something that we've kind of seen in terms of play, when it comes down to a counter, that's not enough to stop Raum in a lot of what he's and capable of doing. I have encountered, depending on where you happen to be playing, if you're playing in a casual game, sometimes you'll get your Raum with a max morale boost running Earth Shatter where he's getting like 90% ult charge bonus, so he's just slamming it through. And I think there has to be some sort of diminishing returns on there that he's not getting a full 90%. But, you know, he's coming through and ulting you, and it feels like it's happening every 30 seconds. That level of Raum is very difficult to deal with. I'm interested to see what Fatal Ambition are going to do. They have the Moji, they've got the Koga, they've got Bomb King. They have a lot of damage to try and melt through that massive health bar.
a single breath.
Do you think they're forcing it, though, at this point, though, Fatal Ambition? I mean, the Bomb King has not worked out in Game 1, didn't work out in Game 2. I mean, maybe you look at the circumstances that the Bomb King was in. I mean, getting two-tapped by both of the snipers on Parallax is never a good environment. Bright Marsh is an environment where Bomb King can work, but are you at all concerned about Fatal Ambition for the third time now trying this PK?
I'm not as concerned for the Bomb King as I am the Moji, right? And honestly, even the Koga to an extent. Koga we have seen work on some of these maps where he can flex away, but I feel like there's been very little success for him in these last few weeks. I don't know if he's going to be able to bring it, but Bright Marsh can work for him. So, you know, let's glance over him, give him the benefit of the doubt, much like we do with Talus here. Moji works on Jagfalls. Na'Vi proved it last year. We've seen other players prove it this year throughout it. Gogurt will play Moji wherever and make it look good. That's a different conversation. But not everyone has that capability, right? King Kaiser is doing it in Brazil, although sometimes not to success. I don't know if headed going Moji here on Bright Marsh is the play that's going to change the day for Fatal Ambition, right? Yep. I don't know if it's going to be the thing that loses them the game. I'm looking at that execute being perfect to counter out Dinttick. If you want to kill him or Kronsz, you ult them, snack time, chase them down, eat the snack. Unfortunately, you're not going to have that often enough to be a consistent counter, so this 4,500 plus health that Dinttick's going to have, you need something that can burn through it. Moji's burst is good, but we'll have to see if he can bring the level of play he needs to.
Well, Dinttick has a lot of health and also a nice flank as he rolls through 4 out of 5 members of Fatal Ambition. You love to see it. frzgod and Mittow confirm the kills on the back line. That's a double now for the Androxus. The setup is there from Dinttick as the Raum barrels his way through. And Gore, it's already 72% for Parallax. We've only just started. They're going to get the first point.
Yeah, you can't really just write anything better than that flank. Like, if you're looking at it right now, Parallax Gaming are putting on a crash course in things that do well in Paladins and how to execute them at that level. Granted, I would argue 70% of it is you have to be able to aim incredibly well to make this work. But, I mean, last map was a masterclass in drafting and why you need snipers on Frog Isle, or at least to ban them. And this one so far seems to be a good masterclass, and why Raum has been so good and why we've seen him banned away a lot of the time. The control he brings, especially alongside someone like an Ashe who's got her own form of control, it locks down so much as a frontline that frzgod on this Andro has been doing so much, he's been able to charge up an accursed arm in so little time. But him and Mittow aren't the conversation. It's these front lines, because of how potent they're being, it's opening up so much space. The team's just rolling forward.
I agree. I love that you bring up the front lines here, because I think you look at the Fatal Ambition roster, and you talk about the dive and maybe long-range blow-up potential that they have for Mittow. You know, you need a lot of front line to buy you space for Mittow if you're playing the Strix, because there's plenty of quick, bursty flank damage that will be coming for you. Maybe not right here, though. I mean, this is an area where a Strix is going to find those shots early, and you know, if it's Mittow, he's going to find them often. He gets the first kill onto Vindo here on this push. Kronsz adds one onto headëd as well. Suddenly it's just Barinoo on this Bomb King, or the Barik, rather. He's going to get blasted away, but right back into the waiting arms of Dinttick as Parallax Gaming roll it in to make it 2.
So that window is a very small window for a Strix to look through. But it gives him everything that he needs to see, which is your backline, and that's all that he's ever going to need to be looking at. And unfortunately, it feels like 2 teams that are playing each other. One, which is Fatal Ambition, who are playing the Brazilian meta we saw for the first few weeks of play, that we saw in qualifiers, that we saw while they were getting this spot, and what we have seen through them, and I will admit, out of Parallax for those first couple of weeks. Parallax Gaming today, though, this is a team that has been watching Europe, that has been scrimming in North America, it feels like, right? That has been playing the other metas and realizing why they are the meta in these other regions, right? Why North America goes something like this just a little bit more often than you'll see. Why Europe is prioritizing champions like this. And it's because the control that they're getting out of it. It is just causing a wreck to run through Fatal Ambition, much like the same reason we're seeing District 69 dominating Europe.
And it's the exact same setup, Gore. They're going to send Dinttick right around the corner, knocks a few back. Fatal Ambition blown off the map by a well-timed collapse from Parallax Gaming. This time, though, Fatal Ambition are able to trade out a few kills. Snack Time maybe finding a little bit of value there, and 39% thanks to the fast cap. Parallax Gaming convincingly regain control of this mid-fight.
You know, there's a certain point where I just have to say the only thing to win this set would be a nerf to frzgod himself, and I just don't know if you're going to be able to get that patched in time. I mean, this guy is just nutty. And unfortunately for Fatal Ambition, this Androxus is one of many problems that are going wrong. You finally get rid of it, but you have to invest so much to be able to get there. A double kill for not PS1's enough, but I just don't know if this Barik is going to be able to hold up long enough for the rest of the damage to come through.
And Vindo is just sad. Dinttick runs down the Bomb King. Suddenly Barinoo, the last man in range for Fatal Ambition. Rocket Boots are not going to help you out this time around. Overtime is on. Fatal Ambition are able to move in and get the touch to reset that timer, but headëd might have to trade out his life for it. Does get the kill onto Kronsz as Dinttick completes his roundabout sprint right on through that point. Overtime ticking down, SUKRAN falls. And not PS1, the last line of defense. That's going to be point number 3. A little bit less convincing this time, but a point nonetheless.
It took him longer to get there, but I think Fatal Ambition were just staggered in the right position, right? Where they're able to come through. And unfortunately, I think what we're going to be seeing here, and you may have noticed it in Europe, I think you'll notice it in North America, and you're noticing it here in Brazil, but Barik ain't what he used to be, and that is honestly well received because, let's admit it, he needed those nerfs, but he doesn't have the same sustain that he used to. Point tanks as a whole just don't open up the door as much as you have something like a Raum right now, and well, obviously the Raum is opening a lot of doors for Mittow and frzgod. It's just so difficult to withstand the pressure from Parallax Gaming. This draft is just built to run you over. It is made for steamrolling, and I can only think of, like, in cartoons, right? When a steamroller rolls over you and you're just laying there flat against the road. And, like, that's the feeling right now, I think, if you're Fatal Ambition.
Yeah, this is brutal. I mean, this Fatal Ambition team has shown us that they can compete in this region, but today is just not their day. I mean, maybe at this point, you just hope this one rolls through and we try again next week. PS1 tried to find the flank. That's a flashbang, a stealth, and a kill from Mittow to complete 2 here in this fight. Barinoo's going to have to go behind his shield, does not have the dome shield ready. Owtlander does have that be gone. frzgod finds a final shot down onto the Barik as Mittow does end up finally falling. Respawns will be closer here for Fatal Ambition, and a snack time is going to get rid of Dinttick. And really, for the first time this game, Gore, it looks like Fatal Ambition are going to be in control, but just like that, they get traded out.
That was just really well played from Owtlander. Like, I mean, a backflip, being able to find those shots. It's not something that's easy to do, and it looks much simpler than how it feels in-game, right? So you just, as you're flying backwards, being able to throw out a few shots, but staying under pressure from a Moji and still getting the kill is very impressive for them. But unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to be enough. I'm going to credit that defense more to Mittow than anything, trying to barrel stuff in the Barik. Didn't work out well for him there. But as of right now, it did give up a lot of ground. Fatal Ambition actually have a pretty good grip on this one.
And that was Dinttick, who actually made the big roundabout return to try to help out his backline, get PS1 out of the fight, but a snapshot from Owtlander is going to drop that Koga. Vindo in the backline on this Bomb King has found a kill, but he's also found a shot from frzgod, who has a double kill. That's the dome shield down from Barinoo. He's stunned as well. See you later, Fatal Ambition. Parallax Gaming. Oh, the Begone catches him in midair. And a little bit of flare there towards the end. Parallax Gaming finally roll it in, and they complete the 12-0 on a 3-0 day.
Say what you want about Io. That's a pretty shot. Like, at the end of the day, that's all I have to take away. That was a very well-played shot. This set, in my mind, was less of a glance at what does Fatal Ambition have, and more how convincing can Parallax be, considering the last time we saw them was a 3-0, and you put an asterisk on that because I think Owtlander was missing for 2 of those games, so you have to kind of, make sure you factor that into your equation, but it was a 3-0, they lose. They needed to make a statement to say, no, we are #1 in Brazil. this was that statement, right? This was nothing short of an exclamation point to guarantee themselves a #1 spot as, yes, we are Brazil. If you want to win, if you want to be guaranteed to be the top, you have to go through us first.
And I think I love that this highlight package kind of started with Kronsz on this Ashe, because, I think it's so hard to maybe highlight enough people somehow on Parallax Gaming, because everyone did their job today. Kronsz picks up the Ashe 3 times in 3 separate games, or maybe it was 2. I don't remember what he played on Stone Keep in game #1, but I think Kronsz had a beautiful set. It was the Ashe, actually, on Stone Keep, so 3 games out of 3 he's playing this Ashe. And it just worked. I mean, talk about being able to open space. Parallax Gaming, the backliners, had enough space to operate, and a lot of that is thanks to Kronsz.
And, I mean, I didn't realize that, like, triple kills like that coming through for Mittow. There was a point where a double-double came through for frzgod, so essentially a quadra kill where he's killed 4 of the people. I mean, it was clean from Parallax, but as you saw in the standings, like, there's still some other teams that are up at the top causing issues for them, right, to maintain that #1 spot. And those are the ones that they're going to have to not only go and beat, for some of them maybe beat again, but they're going to have to, again, outstandingly beat them. They're going to need to do what they just did, but maybe even harder to make sure they go up to the top, because Carnage Gaming's right on their heels, exactly who we expected. In Control Nation, even though the maps aren't the same, they're right there. And so it's definitely kind of divided Brazil into like a half-and-half area, but Parallax has to stamp that seal of approval onto like 3 more sets before they're absolutely hands down #1.
And it's curious to watch, because the team Parallax lost to was Clarity, who just lost their match this week. It's kind of a weird kind of roundabout round robin. Every team has 1 more game to play before they've played everyone in their region. So next week, week 5, is going to be pretty telling as far as where teams stand. We can really look at in-depth matchups there. But I think you can't maybe say more than any other region. I think Brazil, though, I mean, still pretty close-knit here through 4 weeks. I mean, Parallax has got to be the favorite, but if you look at those other 5 teams, I think anyone could really make a run for a couple of those top spots.
And again, my eyes almost immediately jump to Carnage Gaming right now. Again, when you have frzgod on one side, you get Ares on the other, and I think Ares and crew are maybe my shoo-in for #2 in this area, and I've kind of expected that from the get-go, but they have looked really good in the past. Still 3-1, much like you have in Parallax Gaming, so it does come with a loss, I guess, assigned to that package, but it's still something to keep your eyes open on, because I think if anyone's going to start giving other teams trouble, Carnage is the next tier of players.
Are you surprised with any of, maybe some of the meta picks we saw here today? I was maybe surprised at the lack of Ruckus, but I think maybe the way that the meta is moving, Ruckus is going to start carrying a little bit less weight, maybe specifically in this region where there's over priority on having maybe an extra healer on your team or triple DPS. Maybe surprised with anything you saw today in these picks and bans?
I think what we saw was Fatal Ambition holding on to the meta that has been prominent in Brazil, maybe shaking it up just a little bit, running some triple DPS, and Parallax Gaming moving towards this new tier of meta, right? That's been arising in Europe, it's been arising in North America, something that comes in and is just more aggressive, will just run you over with damage and control. And I think what we're going to view probably this week and maybe a little bit next week is the teams that are still running the old meta coming to terms and grips with it as they lose to what has kind of risen up in every other region.
Well, Gore, that's Brazil, and I appreciate you, and that's what we've got from you today. It was 30 minutes of Brazilian action there. It was great calling it with you. Everybody at home, we still have North America. We've got Sanguine up against HP Office Jet Pro, so stick around. We'll be right back.